I always wanted to become someone who would help people. Why? Well, I had such a whim suddenly. I just need to help people. My destiny, apparently. At the same time, I don't feel like God. Rather, I feel like a person with special magic. Moreover, I have chosen the path of light for myself, not darkness. Maybe not for everyone. Maybe not for everyone. But I think that people who need me will always want to receive my help. Perhaps I can help them want to become better. Allow them to be filled with my light, to find their own. Since birth, I have dreamed that the people I will meet on my life path will know the power of my inner light. Yes, I realize that it is impossible to burn forever, that even the brightest flame can sooner or later go out. Still, I believe that my inner light will burn as long as I want it to. I also believe in the possibility that I can help other people burn long and clearly inside, in their hearts and souls. And if so, then my existence will be able to gather around itself an environment that will ignite others. As I remember now, this light awakened in me when I reached the age of 15. At that time, I actively began to study books on medicine, psychology, and psychotherapy. I read any book materials available to me, at school and at home. I had many friends. They all reached out to my light, although sometimes they called me a bookworm behind my back. I was not offended by them. On the contrary, for me it was a kind of compliment. After all, I knew for sure that everything I did then was not in vain. It was not in vain. At first I thought I would go into simple psychology. At school, I was pretty good at it, listening to the problems of my peers and giving them advice on their problems. Whether it was relationships, parents, or some of their internal discoveries or conflicts, I was always needed and in demand. My own experience was built on this, which later turned out to be very useful. A little later, after finishing school, I entered Novosibirsk State University. As I remember now, I went there with my father. By the way, it was one of my most intriguing and very interesting trips. I remembered it for many years. I remembered it even after my father passed away. May he rest in peace. My father's death did not break me. I did not drink. I did not use drugs. To some extent it strengthened me, although part of my light went out. I was then a third-year student at my university. By the way, I chose the direction of clinical psychology. In particular, I realized that I was destined to choose psychiatry and related private and state medical institutions. Then I couldn't even imagine how it would affect my life. How many people I would help. How many people would help me. How many I would destroy, extinguishing their inner lights. Their light. Even though I am not as young as I used to be, my memory does not fail me. I remember this story. The story of salvation, which at some point turned into unrequited love, although at the moment it did not feel that way. Mr. Strange, I know that the subject of your channel is far from human tragedies. Still, I hope that you will find my letter and my story interesting, perhaps even quite instructive. Where light shines, darkness is always born. One simply cannot exist without the other. Who else but you should know about this? Fear. It is not only about the otherworldly, alien, or militarized. It can also be universal, internal. Let's be honest. Not all people are ready to look inside themselves, just as not everyone is ready to accept their light and their darkness. I remember Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "If you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you." I love this quote. It perfectly describes the hustle and bustle of psychotherapists, which is what I am. The story I want to tell you and your viewers began in a hospital located somewhere on the border between Russia and Kazakhstan. Please forgive me for my secrecy. Still, I will now reveal some details of medical confidentiality. And this, in turn, is criminally punishable. I can only say that it happened last year, the 24th year of this century. And where exactly, when exactly, and why exactly so, I will leave food for thought to your viewers. I'd been working in that hospital for 4 years already. I hadn't come across any serious diagnoses. They were mostly children and adults who were burdened by their lives and tried to end them in various ways. There were also those who were deeply traumatized by various events. For example, I had a patient whom, with your unspoken permission, let's call Roberto. So Roberto was shaken by a personal, but by the standards of ordinary people, quite an ordinary tragedy. His cat died, and a little later his computer burned down when Roberto carelessly spilled a pan of hot jelly on the system unit. All the videos and photos with the image of his deceased furry friend were stored there. The young man, who was 24 at the time, was very upset by the loss of his cat. He felt even more upset by the loss of all his digital memories. After some time he began to mutter various words, threats to himself. He began to scream. His neighbors brought him to our department. They lived with him in a communal apartment, and as soon as they realized that something was wrong with him, they quickly grabbed him and took him to the hospital. The patient absolutely did not want to make contact with me. Not with me, not with the other doctors, and not even with the charming nurses. All he repeated were strange words. He said the following: "I am a UFO driver, pish pish ololo, and upiachka, club onotole." Roberto looked haggard, tired. His face was drawn. He looked emaciated. His hair was disheveled, dirty. It was quite possible to say that he had been a very attractive man before, but now only a shadow of his former beauty remained. The medical board already wanted to place him in the intensive care unit, where they tried to work on him with slightly less humane methods in order to at least bring him back to his senses, but I remained against it. Instead, at my request, although not the first time, Roberto was placed in a single room. The room was unusual. It had a glass panel the size of the wall, through which one could observe everything that was happening outside from the other side. That's where I sat down with a cup of hot chocolate and began to watch intently. At first, Roberto simply lay on the bed with his arms crossed. A little later, he began to put his hand to his ear, imitating a telephone conversation. I became curious about this. In this, I found the key to the heart of this strange but very interesting patient. Having left a nurse in the room, having instructed him to strictly monitor the patient, I went to the storeroom. There I managed to find old ring phones. Yes, the ones that stood in almost every house before. If you remember, dialing a subscriber's number was done by twisting the ring. So I took one of these phones and, returning to the room with Roberto, asked my fellow nurse Artemi to put this old telephone on the table next to the bed. I also found out that nothing much had changed during my absence. For the better, believe me. At first, Roberto didn't react to the phone. After a while, I decided to nudge him so that he would pay attention. The thing is, there is a loudspeaker installed in the room. With its help, I imitated a phone call. When Roberto decided to pick up the phone, we had a scary and at the same time funny dialogue. "Who am I talking to?" "Posh posh ololo, I'm the UFO driver," Roberto replied. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "Oh, I'm sorry. It just slipped out. Old habits, you know." "I sympathize with you. How are you feeling?" So. I was kidnapped and brought to some strange catacombs. I'm scared. They want to kill me." "Yes, that's right, Russ. They want to kill me. You're my killer too, right?" "It depends on you. Perhaps I am your salvation. Do you know the cat Onotoli?" Who? I answered in amazement. Then I regretted that I had not decided to dig deeper into Roberto's seemingly meaningless mutterings. "So you are not a member of the club. It's clear, you are one of them. Upiachka is not your profile, you can tell right away," Roberto said then, and hung up with a loud bang. I immediately turned off the speakerphone. A little later, already sitting in my office, I went online and decided to read about Upiachka. Then it became clear to me what it was and how I could help Roberto. Read it yourself. A very interesting language and once forgotten cultural code of Runet. Returning to Roberto, I called again. He answered. This time, I decided to start the dialogue. Pish pish, ololo. I'm the UFO driver, Roberto exclaimed happily, jumping up and down on the spot. It was a good sign. Nah, I am your salvation. My name is Upiachkomen. Oh, I've been waiting for you. When will you rescue me? At the same time, when you tell us what happened to you? My cat died. His name was Onotole. I always called him that jokingly. And then he was gone. Roberto spoke coherently for the first time in the short time we had known each other. Plus, I screwed up my computer. Believe it or not, Upiachkomen, but that was the last straw. Apparently the enemies decided then that I was vulnerable and weak and kidnapped me. Now I'm here. I don't even know where exactly. I understand you, my brother. Don't worry, help is already on the way. Just tell me, your cat Onotola, is it really impossible to find memories of him anywhere else? Maybe it is possible. Is it necessary? Enemies are everywhere. Even I am my own enemy. I want to die. As soon as I find a blade or something sharp, I will immediately cut my veins. I think your cat Onotol wouldn't be happy about this. Maybe. But he was the only one left with me. My parents are all dead. My relatives forgot me long ago and never visited me, as if I was some kind of leper. Even my cat died, unable to bear my melancholy. That's not true, Roberto. You need yourself first and foremost. Your cat Onotol gave his life so that you could live, so that you could learn to feel. You are talking nonsense. I feel nothing. But it is your desire to end your life that says that you are alive, that you feel. Isn't that enough? Roberto fell silent. He paced the room. I watched him, holding my breath. Here and now, everything had to be decided. Was Roberto ready to heal his soul, or had the darkness completely consumed his mind? For my colleagues in intensive care, this would be a green light. For me, this was one of those cases where I believed in myself too much. After a long wait, Roberto said, "You're right, Dr. Upiachkomen." He grinned. "I think I'm ready to hear you out in person." I turned off the speakerphone and after a while entered the room. Roberto shook my outstretched hand. "You already know me. What can I call you?" "Sergei Avasovich, Dr. Psychotherapist." "What an unusual patronymic name you have. Just like your cat has an unusual name. How do you feel?" "A little better. My mind is slowly coming back, and I don't want to die anymore. I didn't even think that anyone else knew about Upiachka. I was into her when the internet was very young. Well, thanks to you, Roberto, I also learned a lot today. If you don't mind, I would like to do everything I can to help you. Do you agree?" "Yes. I'd be glad if you could help me. Onotole may be dead, but that doesn't mean I have to follow him. Besides, I think I can always get another cat." "That's right, Mr. Roberto. He may not replace your friend, but I'm sure he'll help you find a reason to live again. I'll visit you later. I have other patients waiting for me. In the meantime, rest. Thank you for your trust." I extended my hand to the man again, and he shook it firmly, smiling at me. After a while, Roberto left our institution. Colleagues from intensive care were disappointed. Sometimes I think that the people working there are sadists, not doctors who really want to help their patients. But who am I to judge them? After all, it is up to me whether the patient falls into their hands or not. You could say that I am the last line of defense before the inevitable darkness. After Roberto, a no less significant story happened for me personally. A young, very beautiful and attractive girl was brought to our department. According to a medical record, her name was Sasha, but for some internal reasons, she called herself Alexander. She didn't come alone. She was brought by either her boyfriend or a friend. He never really introduced himself. From his young but haggard face, I prematurely concluded that something was clearly bothering the young man, but he didn't say what exactly. I didn't understand it then. Or rather, I didn't understand it right away, but Sasha stole my heart. You can certainly condemn me. After all, it is a terrible crime in medical practice to love your own patient, and in a mental hospital at that. Well, I would gladly stand in line with you and shout and assert, but you know yourself that sometimes you cannot command your heart. And even if you can, what is the essence of ours? Our humanity. When I sat down opposite Sasha in my office, she looked indifferent. Red hair, small nose, tall, about 6 feet tall. It was a quick, appraising glance from me. I was the first to break the silence. Hello, my name is Sergei Avasovich. I am the attending physician psychotherapist of this blessed hospital. What is your name? Everyone calls me Sasha, but that's not my real name. More precisely mine, but not the female version. In which one then? In the men's. I'm Sasha Alexander. How long have you had an internal conflict of self-determination? This is not a conflict. I am a man trapped in a woman's body. A guy in a skirt, in simple terms. And that young man who brought you, my brother. He's tired of me and my problems. I've been nagging him about how I want to be the man in the house, not him. We often argued about this. Listen, I'm fine. Her voice rose noticeably. Let me go home, please. I can't let you go. More precisely, I can. But only after our board of doctors determines whether it is safe for you to leave the walls of our medical institution. Yes, of course it's safe. I'm not dangerous to anyone. Except for yourself? Your brother said you scratched your neck with a razor blade. It's not what he thought. And what could one think in this situation, Sasha? Why did you do this to yourself? I just got angry, okay? I wanted to do that. I've been taking out my anger and rage on my body for a long time now, on this feminine, tasteless body. I put out cigarettes, scratch my hands. Not deeply, just to feel physical pain instead of mental. Sasha rolled up the sleeves of her sweater and I saw the scars she was talking about. What I saw scared me. It's not that I haven't seen similar cuts. I've seen them many times. After all, we're not a nursing home. People sometimes even after or during a therapy that was comfortable for them wanted to cut their veins. But here, in these scars, I saw so much mental pain in this man who sat before me. So much sadness, anger, hatred, and disappointment towards himself. Sasha saw my confusion. She responded accordingly. You see, my brother responded the same way. And for me, it's just a body. As alien as my name, Sasha Alexandra. Ugh, I just want to spit every time I say it or hear someone call me that. Forgive me, Sasha. I didn't fall silent because I was horrified, or rather because of that too. In this case, I saw in your scars all your pain, your sadness, and your hatred towards yourself. Tell me, please, what exactly is weighing you down? I already explained it to you. I can't be myself, really myself. Everyone wants something from me. Guys look at me like a girl, fall in love with me like a girl, and desire me like a girl. But I'm a guy. Inside. I don't love anyone. I don't desire anyone. I don't even love myself, and I don't desire myself. What can I say about others? Plus, I'm also an asexual person, so it turns out no one needs me. I don't need myself either. That's my grief. That's my tragedy. While Sasha was telling about herself, I was making notes in my notebook. I don't like pencils. I prefer pens and strictly black ink. The girl has an obvious internal conflict, and one of those that would be good to work through with a psychotherapist and with the help of medications. Autoaggression can also stem from all of this. That is, the desire to harm yourself, your body. To prove to yourself once again that nothing is perfect, that no one will love you, no one will want to accept and understand you. The first thing I catch in my notes is Sasha's constant mention of wanting to be alone, that she doesn't need anyone, and that no one needs her. Conflict? Contrast? Exactly. So you need to ask a precise, well-considered question, which is what I did. Sasha, could you please clarify? Have you ever been in a relationship? No, never. And I've never had any friends either. I'm telling you, no one needs me. But you would like to be needed, right? She fell silent. She thought. She began to fidget in her chair. Whether she knew it or not, she only fueled my interest. Don't get me wrong. I genuinely wanted to help this girl. Sure, she was very beautiful and charming on the outside, even with her many scars. Her eyes shone like amber gold. I don't know how, I don't know why, but she kept stealing my heart little by little. Still, I continued to wait humbly. My patience finally paid off. The silence ended. "Can I go to the restroom?" Sasha said. "You may." "Wait a little, please. The nurse will show you the way." I pressed the button under my desk, and 10 seconds later Artemy came. In fact, he was always somewhere near me. We were not friends, but for some reason of his own, he tried to protect me from other, more dangerous patients. "Your name is Sergei Avasovich?" he asked loudly without mockery. "Yes, Artemy. Take this lady to the restroom, please." Artemy nodded and opened the door wider. Sasha stood up from her seat, adjusted her skirt, and went out. Before leaving, she looked back at me. Still, I liked her metaphor. Guy in a skirt. It perfectly describes the essence of her internal conflict. A man trapped in a woman's body. In fact, it is very scary. Much scarier than people with PTSD who return from military actions in Chechnya, Afghanistan, Iraq, or any other hotspot. We have different patients. We try to help them all. From simple conversations, medication to hospitalization, with the previously mentioned methods and intensive therapy. Intensive therapy covers a variety of different treatment methods. It includes people with acute mental pathology of both psychotic and non-psychotic levels, as well as its combination with somatic pathology. Personally, I try not to bring my patients there. As I said earlier, this is the last resort in treatment. If even this does not help, then nothing else will help. Either a person will be able to collect himself piece by piece at some point, or he will remain in a state of destroyed mind. There is no third option. All these thoughts were interrupted by the sound of screams outside the door. I became curious about what could have happened. At the same time, a feeling of anxiety crept inside me. When I opened the door, I saw Sasha. She was holding a scalpel to Artemy's throat and threatening to open his carotid artery. The nurse himself tried not to move so as not to provoke the girl once again. Seeing all this, I was overcome by different feelings. I wanted to smile at the irony of the fact that, apparently, Artemy already needed a bodyguard. I also wanted to scream from helplessness, because I did not yet know how to resolve this situation correctly. Everything was further complicated by the fact that Sasha was clearly ready to do what she had planned. I came closer, putting my hands in front of me. "Sasha, please put down the scalpel." "No. Either you let me out of here, or this man will die." "Sasha, please. Artemy is not guilty of anything. He didn't give me a way out," and he looked at me like a woman. And, "Alexander, be a man and act like a man," I said, lowering my voice. "Or are you a woman?" Sasha was taken aback. This delay was enough for Artemy to wriggle out of her grip and knock the scalpel away. He immediately twisted her and threw her to the floor. One of the nurses ran up and injected the girl with a couple of cc's of a powerful sleeping pill, standard practice in such situations. Sasha screamed and kicked. But after some time, she still calmed down. I approached Artemy and asked him, "How are you? Are you okay?" "Yes, Sergei Avasovich." She caught me by surprise and somehow snatched the scalpel from my lower pocket. Be careful with such things in future. Don't doubt it. I know how to learn from my mistakes. I patted him on the shoulder and walked further down the corridor. Another nurse picked Sasha up and carried him to a single room. They were designed for patients like this, unstable. Those who were ready to risk their own and others' lives to achieve goals unknown to them. Sasha slept quietly and peacefully. Nurses were supposed to come soon to change her into the clothes of a patient in our hospital. While no one was there, even behind the glass, I allowed myself the liberty of running my hand through the girl's hair. The softness of her hair amazed me. At the same time, I felt very sad. Such a treasure. And she doesn't love and hates herself so much. What scared me even more was that I began to feel attached to this girl. Moreover, to my own patient. With these thoughts, I left the ward. I returned only after midnight, when Artemi, whom I had left to watch Sasha behind the glass, told me that she had woken up. I immediately stopped writing a report on what happened and went to Sasha's room. Beforehand, I asked Artemi to leave the observation room and wait for me outside the door. I must give him credit. This man was one of those people who did not ask unnecessary questions. Artemi nodded to me and fulfilled my request. I entered the room and saw Sasha sitting on the bed, hugging her knees. There was a chair by the door. I moved it closer and sat down. There was a long silence between us. No one dared to break it until I heard sobs. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to come to this. I want to go back. I want to go back to my job as a bartender to see happy customers. I feel bad here. It is precisely because you feel bad that you should stay and get cured. I can't be cured. Have you tried it? No, but I know. I sighed. In a way, she was right. There was no cure for her diagnosis, and it couldn't be called a physical illness, more like a mental one, with sharp outbursts of aggression towards herself and other people. You're right, Sasha. There is no cure, at least not a universal one, but we can stabilize your condition. You will undergo a course of therapy. What kind of therapy? I told you, nothing will help me. I will help you. I will give all of myself to help. I raised my voice a little to give importance to my words. These will be strong antidepressants. These will be group meetings with other patients of our hospital who are finishing or just starting their journey to healing their souls. I will also prescribe you walks in the fresh air and no contact with phones or other gadgets. You need peace. You, your body, and your soul. Sasha snorted. She didn't believe it. You can understand her too. No friends, no love, only a brother, about whom I also know little. I allowed myself the liberty again and touched the girl's head. I ran my fingers through her hair, touched the back of her head. She didn't react. Or rather, she did react, but in her own way. Her body tensed, and her mind was most likely in fight or flight mode. So I said, "You are not a monster, Sasha. You are a very beautiful person." I deliberately spoke in a neutral tone. If I had spoken differently, her internal conflict would have intensified even more. We will help you. I will help you. Please, trust me. After all, everything that happens for the best. I'm scared. Scared to trust. Even you, Doctor. Everyone abandoned me. Everyone rejected me. No one accepted my asexuality or my principles. They kept saying that I was abnormal, that I needed treatment. However, they all turned out to be right. Now they will definitely treat me. Well, that was progress. To build on its success, I continued to assess the situation sensibly. Sasha, listen, we will not insist and treat your asexuality. After all, this is the choice of every sane person. I am sure you have reasons to choose this way and not otherwise. In this case, neither I nor my colleagues will force you to make any changes in this direction. Only until you yourself want to give us the green light. Do you promise? I give you my honest word as a doctor and a man. She fell silent. Then she took a deep breath and exhaled. Why do I feel like I'll regret this? Everything depends on you and us, or from you and me. You like me, right? Your words are not without meaning. You somehow managed to charm me. You too. I once tried dating a man. He also said that he accepted me, my views. I told him right away that I was asexual and that sex didn't interest me. But he kept insisting that he loved me. In the end, everything ended as usual. How so? I asked in amazement, removing my hand. These two inner beings were still fighting inside me. My doctor and my man, who wanted to love, save, and possess this girl. I killed him. Not physically, mentally. At this point I was speechless. I became scared, I felt uneasy. My body literally started screaming at me to get up from my chair and run out of the room and never return to this two-faced patient again. Still, I decided to pull myself together and stay. I always had a rule. If you take on a patient, then see him through to the end. And what end depends on the patient and me. I stood up from my chair and headed for the door. Before leaving, I bowed to the girl and said, "Nice to meet you, Sasha. Alexander, please think of a pseudonym for yourself." Why is this? This is the practice of our hospital. We call patients by their names, and the patients themselves communicate with each other through pseudonyms. This is done for anonymity. I will think. Then see you tomorrow. Rest. Wake up at 8 in the morning. They'll come for you, since you're new. Will you come in? Oh no, unfortunately not me. But we'll see each other. I'll wait, she smiled at me. I don't know if it was sincere or to charm me more. At least contact had been established. All that was left was to work and work. And me, Sasha. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to greet you properly. Welcome to the Pride and Precaution Asylum. I hope you enjoy your stay with us. Without waiting for an answer, I left the room and closed the door behind me. Looking at my wristwatch, I saw that it was already approaching 2 o'clock in the morning. The day had flown by again. As always, though, as I passed the intensive care unit, I heard screams coming from there once again. Someone with acute psychosis was screaming again, tearing his throat. A couple of minutes later, the screaming stopped. It was the nurses of the department, strong and steadfast men who silenced the singing bird. God forbid I end up there as a treating physician. After all, such patients are still not my profile. Having already reached the office and having made my bed on the sofa, I opened the computer and finished writing the report. Later, I began to finish writing the letter that you are now reading. You and your viewers, Mr. Strange. If you are interested, I will write a sequel. After all, quite a bit of time will pass from the moment you receive it. This story, like any other, always has a sequel. In my case, I hope it is not tragic. All the best. Don't get sick, neither mentally nor physically. And if something happens, I'm ready to help you and your viewers. Sincerely, Psychotherapist D, Sergei Avasovich. The Forest. So quiet and so talkative at the same time. Quiet, because there was no one there except me and my partner. Talkative, because the trees seem to communicate with us through the rustling of their leaves. It's a pity that I can't talk to nature. I always wanted this superpower. Many people didn't understand me when I was a child. Everyone wanted to have the ability to fly or read minds or something else unimaginable, impossible. And me, I just wanted to be able to communicate with nature. I think I could understand the language of trees. I could even talk to animals. After all, they are also part of nature. All living things are part of it. But alas, I could only dream. Unfortunately, there were few trees in the forest where my partner and I were. And no matter how much I wondered why this happened, I couldn't find an answer. My thoughts were interrupted by my friend. Okay, enough dreaming. There could be enemies here. God forbid we run into anyone. Even though we have weapons with silencers, that doesn't mean we should engage in combat. God knows what we might encounter in this damn lab. Sorry, friend. It's just that the whole world is such a wonderful adventure that it would be a sin to miss it. Moreover, I'm tired of sitting at the base. Finally, we were given the opportunity to do something, I said and turned around to check if anyone was following us. The partner didn't answer. I imagined his grimace of indifference, which he obviously made. I couldn't see his emotions because he was wearing a protective helmet that completely covered his face. Actually, he couldn't see mine either because I was wearing almost the same helmet. Our Devil May Cry protective helmets had various functions. First, they had built-in radios that allowed us to communicate not only with each other, but also with headquarters. Second, they provided good head protection. Third, they just looked cool. These helmets had a unique paint job, specially ordered from Skull, our armorer. They were perfect for me and my colleague. My helmet was black, and the body had a white shield and sword. My partner's helmet, on the other hand, was white, but his shield and sword were black. Although the command did not encourage such fun, it still allowed us such liberties. Thanks to the unique coloring on our combat helmets, we also received interesting call signs. The headquarters began to refer to me as the Knight of Light, and my partner as the Knight of Darkness. We didn't mind. On the contrary, we really liked it. To some extent, it echoed our personalities. My partner and also my best friend had a calm character. He is very reasonable, but at the same time a modest and closed person. In particular, he is stingy with emotions. I'm practically an open book, but that doesn't mean that everyone knew everything about me. Everyone only knew what I allowed them to. Even the Dark Knight didn't know much about me, and that was fine with both of us. Our mission was to break into a medical laboratory and retrieve a chemical reagent from storage. The laboratory was located underground. To get there, we had to walk 3 kilometers through a Siberian forest behind which was a village. Somewhere in the village there was an entrance. Why the command might need this reagent, we didn't know. Moreover, we were immediately warned that the laboratory had been mothballed 10 months ago, when for some reason something they were studying there almost burst out. No one knew what exactly. Some claimed that the laboratory was developing a bioweapon capable of destroying all the planet's vegetation in just a month. Others said that they wanted to create a cure for cancer. How it all really happened is shrouded in mystery. But only one thing is known. Contact with the guard post near the laboratory was lost. For what reasons is unknown. Who is behind this is unknown. Whether it was a technical error or something actually happened is unknown. I was pulled out of my thoughts by the Dark Knight. He stopped abruptly and I ran into him. Activating the connection inside my helmet, I tried to figure out what had stopped him. Hey, what happened? A premonition. As if someone is watching us. This can't be. The lab is closed and there's not a soul around. Are you so sure about that? Don't rely on the old and evil maybe and keep your ears open, please. And the tail like a pistol? I tried to joke. Keep the gun with your tail, my comrade grumbled. After standing for a couple of minutes, we moved on. We hadn't even made 20 steps when a heart-rending howl was heard somewhere ahead. We stopped again. I took the safety off my Ventores rifle and turned on the laser pointer. My comrade followed my example. The howl died down as quickly as it had started. I turned around and slowly looked around the area around us. It was quiet. The birds fell silent. What? My partner asked. I'm saying, the birds have fallen silent, I repeated. When we first entered the forest territory, they were singing. Now they're silent. And what does this mean? If they suddenly went silent, it means something scared them. And I really hope that this something is not the source of that howl that you and I heard a minute ago. Another howl broke the silence of the forest, and it sounded closer than the previous one. We tensed up again. After a minute or so, a howl came from the left side of both of us. Then everything went quiet. 10 seconds later, another howl broke the silence, and this time it was from the right side. We aimed our silenced weapons in the direction of the sound sources. The tension grew. Time seemed to slow down. My hands started to sweat. My body was pumping adrenaline into my blood. I was overcome with pre-fight jitters. That's what always happens when you're preparing to meet your opponent face to face. I continued to peer through the scope of my rifle, scanning the area around us. The dark night did the same. It was getting dark. The sun was gradually setting. The realization that the sunlight would soon leave us made us feel uneasy. My partner wanted to say something, but he didn't have time. The howling was heard again, but this time from all sides. We were surrounded. The trap was slammed shut. "Quickly, back to back," commanded the partner. Without a moment's hesitation, I obeyed his command, and we took up a defensive position. Each of us had a 90-degree firing arc. This allowed us to control a large area in front of us. One covered the other. 10 seconds later, some mangy mutants rushed at us from my and his sides. They resembled dogs whose fur had fallen off. I didn't have time to make out any other details because 5 individuals were quickly approaching me. Having let them approach to 70 meters, I opened fire with single shots. At that moment, I regretted that I had not taken an AK-12 with a drum magazine or the so-called 60-snik, a magazine for 60 rounds. My partner also opened fire, firing in short bursts. This allowed him to conserve ammunition in the magazine. If either of us made a mistake now, we would both die. And we knew it. I managed to kill 4 of the creatures on my side. The last one suddenly changed its trajectory, causing the bullet I fired to miss its target. The dog accelerated and began to circle around us. I followed it through my scope and fired again. Apparently the bullet hit the creature's paw, causing it to stumble and roll. Not tempting fate, I fired again and hit its carcass. Having written it off, I changed the magazine in my rifle with the practiced movement just in case and looked through the sight again. Time slowed down so much for me that I didn't notice how my partner stopped shooting. "How are you?" I asked him in a muffled voice. "Fine. I took out 4 creatures." "What a coincidence. I have 4 on my account too." "Don't relax. There could be more nearby." Holy shit. I was ready for anything but not mutants. To be honest, I doubt that it's possible to prepare for something like this, I said and began to slowly exhale. I still felt the tension inside, but I tried to calm myself down. "Okay, we need to move further." The Dark Knight didn't have time to finish speaking before some kind of crap fell on him from the tree. I lost my balance and fell. There were sounds of a struggle. I got up and saw how the creature was trying to bite through my friend's bulletproof vest. Without thinking twice, I raised my rifle and fired. The mangy dog died instantly. My partner threw the monster off himself and rose to his feet. I noticed a bleeding wound on his side, around which traces of fangs were visible. "Your mother. It's okay. It'll heal before the wedding. I hope." My friend tried to cheer me up in himself, but he didn't do a good job. And although the radio distorted the intonation, I could still feel his pain. The Dark Knight took a small first aid kit out of his flak jacket and leaned against a tree. He began to give himself first aid. Without thinking twice, I contacted headquarters to report the latest events. "Base, this is the Night of Light. Do you copy?" "Night of Light, this is Base. I can hear you well. What do you have?" "We have made contact with an unknown enemy. Unfortunately, the Dark Knight has been injured. I would like to request immediate evacuation." "Request is being processed. Please wait." The headquarters did not respond for 3 minutes. Too long. Anything could have happened during that time. "Night of Light, this is headquarters," sounded in my helmet. "This is the Night of Light. What do you have?" "How serious is your comrade's injury?" I turned to the Dark Knight, but I didn't see him. Where did he go? He was here just a few minutes ago. "Headquarters, this is the Night of Light. I will report everything later. Over and out." My partner had quietly and completely disappeared. Where he had been standing, there was a bloody pack of bandages. I tried to call him on the radio, but he didn't answer. I didn't like it at all. First the terrible howls, then the strange creatures, then my friend's injury, and now his disappearance. Just brilliant. I checked the number of horns left just in case. There were 3. Not that many, really. If I'd known what I was up against, I would have taken more. I tried to make movements as carefully and quietly as possible. 100 meters later, I found my friend's helmet. This made me quite wary. He couldn't just leave or run away. He simply wasn't morally capable of abandoning me, his friend and comrade on the battlefield. Just like I wasn't able to abandon him. I dropped to one knee and picked up his helmet. As I stood up, I felt someone watching me. I looked around and saw the Dark Knight standing behind a tree not far from me. His face was pale and he was swaying from side to side. "Hey, buddy, where did you run off to?" I called out to him and headed in his direction. In response, my comrade raised his machine gun and fired a burst. The bullets whistled over my head. I decided not to test my fate any further and hid behind the nearest tree. "Hey, what fly bit you? Or a bumblebee? Or was it that dog?" I shouted, not hiding my surprise. In response to this, I received another burst, which this time hit a tree. Fortunately for me, the bullets did not penetrate the wood. Damn, the situation was getting darker by the second, and I didn't know what to do. Shoot him? But he was my friend. Die trying to save him. But how to save him? These and other questions overwhelmed me. And time passed, and it was against me. What a pity that it turned out this way. But apparently there is no choice. I will have to take a risk. HQ, this is the Knight of Light. The Knight of Darkness was wounded by some creature. It bit him, and for some reason after that he attacked me. I want to take a chance and try to disarm him, but I will need evacuation. Can you arrange it? No fighter. If your partner attacks you, you must destroy him. But this is my friend, I exclaimed. Friends do not shoot at their allies. Or have you forgotten the code of every soldier in our organization? Only the weak in spirit are capable of turning a weapon against their comrade. This is an order. The Dark Knight is subject to immediate liquidation. I disconnected the connection and screamed in frustration. The helmet had good sound insulation inside, so the Dark Knight couldn't hear my scream. But I could hear everything that was happening around me perfectly, including the sound of someone running out of ammunition. I jumped out from behind the tree, took aim, and fired at my comrade. Due to excitement, I missed, although I was aiming for his shoulder. After all, I wanted to immobilize him, not kill him. The Dark Knight dropped his now useless machine gun and rushed towards me. His speed was about the same as those mutants we had met earlier. I opened fire and even hit my opponent in the thigh, but it did not stop him. On the contrary, he accelerated and knocked me off my feet. We both fell to the ground. I tried to get up, but he pinned me to the ground. The knight began to beat me. Fortunately, the armor and helmet had good kinetic protection, so I barely felt the blows of his fists. I hit the knight in the face to somehow throw him away from me, but he seemed not to feel my blow. The situation was getting worse. If I didn't do anything, then I was finished, and that meant no one would save my friend. The knight continued to strike me. Eventually, he grabbed my neck, unprotected by armor, and began to strangle me. His grip was too strong. I found the knife on my hip and plunged it into my former friend's shoulder, but that didn't stop him. I started to deliver stabbing blows one after another to the shoulder and back, but this did not stop him. But I felt very well that a little more, and he would strangle me. Gradually my strength left and I dropped the knife. I tried to resist somehow, but the knight did not pay attention to my pathetic attempts to break free. My vision started to darken. I started to lose consciousness, and then I fell into emptiness. Lose weight, I'm dead, I cried and fell out of bed. I think I hurt myself badly. But wait, where am I? I looked around a bit and was surprised. Apparently I was in my cell at the base. To my left lay the Dark Knight, who was sleeping peacefully. Wait, what? Jumping up abruptly, I turned on the lamp on the bedside table and drove away the darkness from our double cell. My friend was lying in the bed, alive and well. Not believing my eyes, I examined him. There was not a scratch on him. Does this mean that everything that happened was just a dream? As I was replaying the dream in my head, my gaze caught on a poster hanging on the wall. It depicted a strange guy in a blue jabot and with a katana on his right shoulder. There was an inscription under the poster. I looked at my friend, still not believing that he was alive. As if sensing that I was looking at him, my friend woke up and looked at me in surprise. "Why aren't you sleeping?" He glanced at his watch and then added, "Fuck, it's 2 a.m. And why are you staring at me anyway? You know perfectly well that I don't like being stared at." "Sorry, it was just a nightmare," I said and lay back down in my bed. "Go to sleep, you idiot. We have to leave in 4 hours." "And where to?" "On a mission, you fucking sclerotic. Headquarters has ordered you and me to infiltrate some godforsaken lab and get a chemical reagent from there." That night I couldn't sleep. My imagination kept reproducing the inscription on the poster, which read, "Don't throw your dreams to the wind." In my head, I thought about everything that happened to me. More precisely to me and the Dark Knight. Unknown creatures. A quiet Siberian forest. A mission we never completed, by the way. My friend's injury, and then my own death. Could it really all have been just a dream? But if it was a dream, then why does it all look like it could turn into a disaster? There were too many questions swarming in my head. There were even fewer answers. I could only guess what it all was, while trying to think rationally. 4 hours passed with all these thoughts. 4 unfortunate hours I thought about everything, but I still did not come to any final conclusions except one. Even if this was a prophetic dream, then all the events will repeat themselves. So I have the opportunity to fix what awaited us in the future. The alarm went off. My friend lay in bed for a while longer before getting up. I got up too without telling my partner a word about my nightmare. He didn't even try to ask me, actually. Breakfast in the headquarters canteen went just like in the dream. Everyone took fried eggs, green tea, and a croissant with chocolate. Everything was repeated, almost. When it came to gear, I changed my choice, keeping in mind what I would be up against. So instead of my beloved VSS, I took a chance on an AK-12 on the Shestiestyanki. I also loaded a few magazines with tracer bullets, so that in the dark I could see who and where I was shooting. My comrade was initially surprised why I was taking a different weapon on a reconnaissance mission, but he didn't ask, shrugging his shoulders. This gesture spoke for itself. That means it has to be this way. The briefing was the same. The laboratory, a mention of a village, which, by the way, we never saw. Lost contact. No changes here. Having sat down in MI-17, I put on my helmet and fell into deep thought. I was both scared and very curious. What was hidden in the depths of the laboratory where the command sent us? Did they initially know that mutants lived there? We had to find out all this. After all, I hadn't confessed anything to my friend yet. A couple of hours later, we flew to the landing site. When the helicopter landed, my friend and I quickly descended. The pilot did not even look at us and immediately began to rise into the air again. When the noise of the helicopter disappeared completely, we moved in the supposed direction of our target. The forest again. So quiet and so talkative at the same time. Quiet, because there was no one there except me and my partner. Talkative, because the trees seemed to communicate with us through the rustling of leaves. Although I regretted it before, I still regret it now. What a pity that I can't talk to nature. I always wanted this superpower. It would be very useful now to understand and explore everything that awaited us ahead. I consciously moved forward in front of my friend. He nodded silently, not trying to take the initiative. After all, not everyone is given the courage to go to the forefront of the attack. However, the survival rate in the rearguard is not particularly high either, and so we reached the place where it all began. I gestured with my hand to my friend to stop. He did not argue. A heart-rending howl could be heard somewhere ahead, but it died down as quickly as it had started. I turned back and slowly nodded to my partner to be ready. I took the safety off the machine gun and switched it to automatic fire. The Dark Knight did the same. The birds around us fell silent, just like in my dream. Another howl broke the silence of the forest. It sounded closer than the previous one. My partner tensed, but I expected this. After a minute or so, a howl came from the left side of both of us. Then everything went quiet. 10 seconds later, another howl broke the silence, and this time it was from the right side. The body began to pour adrenaline into the blood. Time slowed down again. I knew that an attack of mutated dogs would soon follow. Unfortunately, I was not mistaken. My partner wanted to say something, but he didn't have time. The howling was heard again, but this time from all sides. We were surrounded. This time I reacted. Quickly! Back to back! Without a second's hesitation, my comrade obeyed the order given, and we took up a defensive position. 10 seconds later, mutants rushed at us from my and his sides. Holding my breath for just a moment, I fired a small burst and mowed down 2 creatures. My friend entered the battle excitement and did not have time to get scared, opening fire on the creatures from his side. This time, I was ready. Even if my friend had fired his entire magazine in the heat of battle, I might have had enough time to cover him. If either of us made a mistake now, we would both die. We both knew it. Especially me, realizing that one of the most unpleasant ambushes of my life was waiting for us ahead. Having dealt with everyone, I touched my friend on the shoulder. He looked around nervously, searching for more targets. As far as I understand, your magazine should have been empty. Reload. How many did you take out? 4. And I have 5. I grinned. 1 more than that time. What a pest. Oh well. If there are more like them here, we'll definitely get to them. But were you ready for anything but mutants? I finished the sentence for him. You took the words right out of my mouth, exactly. Now. I raised my weapon and started shooting. A few seconds later, the creature that had attacked my friend the last time fell from there and became the cause of his and my death. Now that's it, I said, and removed the empty magazine. Then I inserted a new one. Where are you from? My friend started to ask, but I stopped him. I'll explain everything later. We still have a mission. He nodded, reloaded his weapon, and we moved on. Headquarters, this is the Night of Light. Can you hear me? This is headquarters. We can hear you perfectly. We encountered resistance. Some stray dogs attacked us. They look more like mutants from the worst nightmare of cinema. We are moving towards the goal. Acknowledged, Night of Light. We are watching you. Proceed. We continued. We soon reached the guard post and immediately understood why the connection had been cut off. In general, it was already clear when we saw the mutants earlier. Several tents were torn to shreds. Here and there, corpses, gnawed to the bone but still smelling foul, lay scattered about. Judging by their appearance, one could tell that a human foot, mostly alive, had set foot in this area a week or so ago. Holy shit, the Dark Knight responded over the radio. Even his emotional stinginess couldn't completely cover up the shock of what he saw. Well, apparently the lab isn't as mothballed as they tried to make us believe. It is true. I'm afraid to even imagine what happened to the villagers who live nearby. I don't even want to check. Of course, I'm glad that you have a lot of ammunition with you. But without the Rosgvardia detachment, I wouldn't have come here at all. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. After all, that's what we were sent here for. To do the job quietly and without unnecessary noise, without attracting the attention of officials. Oh yes, our PMC Nemesis will only be glad if we do everything as planned. As it happens in life, things rarely work out as planned. As soon as we stepped onto the territory of the dead post, a howl was heard throughout the area, as if we had entered a special zone, and then, as in any computer game, the script worked. "Hurry! Let's run!" I shouted. We rushed on. Behind us was the watchtower, the fence, and the dead. With my back, I felt as if someone was watching us. But I tried not to turn around. Soon a barrier appeared. Behind it was a guardhouse, and further away were several barracks. The whole thing was surrounded by a stone wall 2 meters high. We ran inside the area and looked for some kind of shelter. The howling was getting louder. "There!" shouted my partner. I followed his gesture and saw a small building. We ran inside, but before I managed to close the door, one of the creatures grabbed my leg. I managed to shake it off with a blow from the butt of my rifle and fell inside. The dark night closed the metal door behind me, which was immediately hit very hard. The leg was bleeding. I immediately took out a bandage and a healing spray, but remembered that last time it didn't help my friend. "I'm going to die," I stated what was happening. Everything suddenly became unimportant. Somehow, unnecessary. "What? Hey, don't say that. We still have a mission, damn you." My friend took off his helmet and shouted loudly. He was desperate, and I understand him perfectly. I've been in his place too. "Look, all you need to do is shoot me. Otherwise I'll lose control. Don't even argue. I've been through this before. Just trust me, Nicholas." For the first time in our long mission, I called him by his name. I always did that when I just needed him to trust me. But, he tried to protest. "Trust me. Otherwise, why do you think I woke up from a nightmare? The events are repeating themselves. Only in the nightmare, you were infected first, and only then did I die at your hands. Please, do this for me and for yourself." I pulled my TT out of the holster and handed it to my partner. He took the gun uncertainly. I suddenly felt sick. Strange voices started to sound in my head. They were calling me. They were pushing me away. They wanted me to do something. Something very important. Kill, eat, convert. Kill, eat, convert. That's what I heard. And I felt myself starting to give in. With an uncertain movement, Nicholas put the gun to my forehead. My vision was clouded and I did not see it. I only heard the gun hit the surface of my helmet. Losing control, I grabbed the grenade hanging on my vest. Another second and I would have pulled the pin. But the gunshot was the last thing I heard. "Lose weight! I'm dead!" Nicholas and I exclaimed in unison, and we both fell off our beds. Having somehow shaken ourselves off, we looked at each other with eyes full of misunderstanding. I sat on the edge of my bed and cupped my face in my hands. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. And then I saw the poster, still hanging on the wall. It depicted a strange guy in a blue jabot and with a katana on his right shoulder. Under the poster was an inscription that read, "Don't throw dreams to the wind." "So? We both died, huh?" Nicholas asked me. "As you see. But why are we here then?" "I don't know. More precisely, I have a guess. But you might not like my guess." "Go ahead. It can't get any worse." "Well," I exhaled, and then took a deep breath and continued. "It seems that you and I got caught in a time loop, my friend. More precisely, I got caught in it first, and then somehow you got caught in it. I think that your presence here, and the fact that you remember everything, is the result of my actions." My friend fell silent. He laid down on the bed again and covered his face with his hands. I glanced at the wall clock and checked the time. Just like last time, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. Like it or not, some very strange devilry was really happening, which I said out loud. "It's all strange, you know, my friend." "Strange? You call it strange? It's terrible. First you got into the noose, and now I do too. And you won't tell anyone. No one will simply believe us. Yes, he won't believe it. We ourselves can hardly believe what's happening. Still, no matter what happens, the mission remains. How we carry it out along the way, what decisions we make, affects what will happen next. Damn, I feel like a hero from some cheap book, or a hero of a computer game, I thought to myself. But out loud I said something else. Anyway, let's think about it and put it all together. Maybe our actions can influence our future. Okay, partner, Nicholas said. What was your day like and how was it different from ours? On my day, let's call it the first, you died. Remember that creature that jumped from above, but which I shot in time? So it became the reason for your infection. After its bite, you seemed to become a zombie, whose goal was to kill me as quickly as possible and by any means. Did I succeed? Unfortunately. Damn it. I never thought I'd raise my hand to you. Well, I picked it up, I said, and sat down on the edge of the bed. The memories of that day were too vivid. What happened on the second day? My partner interrupted my gloomy thoughts. In the second, I prudently saved you from death by taking an AK-12 with me in the 60s. I remember it happened, and then we almost got to the laboratory together. Yes, but I died there too. Wait, I died. And what happened to you? As soon as I put a bullet in your forehead, the creatures broke through, and I had no choice but to take them with me by detonating all the grenades in my pouch. So death. Cinematic, of course. But I wouldn't want that to happen again. So what we have is that it is unknown how the loop behaves in relation to our death separately. That is, if I die earlier and you survive, we don't know. Will I be the only one who remembers everything before death upon awakening? Or will you also retain your memories? Nicholas thought about it. I thought about it too. I would like to say, of course, that we got into some kind of matrix, or became heroes of some book. But many things did not add up. There was too little information for both of us. Everything was real and unreal at the same time. That was what scared us the most. This stupid feeling of the unknown. Okay, why rack your brains? Even if we revive, we still have a mission. Whether you like it or not, you have to fulfill it. Find this chemical reagent, damn it. That's true. You're right, Nicholas. Let's go to the armory for now and look into the dining room. Marina Nikolaevna is hardly sleeping. Maybe she'll treat us to something sweet at night. Nicholas nodded to me and we left our cell. Nemesis took care of its employees, to their credit. All squads or 2s and 3s, depending on who got along with whom and how, had everything they needed. A rich armory, delicious food, hot showers, vacation pay. Still, Nicholas and I almost never went on vacation. What would we do there, in civilian life? All my relatives died long ago. His wife in Moscow left for another man, without waiting for him to return to her. I remember him upset very well. He was so sad about Olga's passing. So much so that he almost committed a war crime even by PMC standards. I remember we were on a hostage rescue mission. 5 terrorists had taken over a school on a weekend where there were a few teachers and a couple of students. So, when he was released, Nicholas almost shot one asshole. He was taking out all his pain on him, all his rage for the woman he loved leaving him. It's good that I was there. Otherwise that bastard would have never gone to prison for the rest of his days, getting off easy. I generally think that death is a luxury. It comes to us for good, even if we don't realize it. But when it comes to such creatures in human form, for them death is an easy escape from punishment. With all these thoughts in mind, we reached the armory. It was located in the basement of our base. The air was filled with warmth and gun oil. It was always warm inside. Skull, that was the name of our armorer, always made sure that his abode had a stable temperature and was not damp. Otherwise, all the weapons stored here could quickly become unusable. What greenhorns can't sleep at night? Skull stood up from behind his counter. He was a muscular cabinet, 2 meters tall, very broad-shouldered. Sometimes I wondered, how did he even fit through door frames designed for ordinary people? We didn't know his real name, and there was no point in asking. Skull and skull. We respected him, he respected us. No more, no less. Yes. Somehow yes. Jitters before the mission. Oh, I know that. Even though I haven't been on a mission for a long time, the fear of battle hasn't gone away. Although sometimes I envy you all. You go on missions, find yourself on the edge of the abyss, look the abyss in the eye. While you do all that, I'm sitting here among the silent weapons, wasting my time. Wait a minute, Skull. I heard that the Ministry of Defense is actively developing smart weapons. Apparently it can talk and shoot quite accurately, said Nicholas, shaking Skull's hand. Ha. Well, the last thing I need here is talking guns. Skull chuckled and then suddenly became more serious. What weapons will you take on the mission? I'll have an RPK on the drum, please. 3 RGD, 1 RGN. Check the fuse so it goes off instantly, please. What? Are we expecting a close fight? Skull raised his left thick eyebrow in surprise. It feels like yes, and I never lied to him. Accepted. What are we hanging on the RPK? A cobra sight with a green crosshair in the form of a lambda. The flashlight uses the 2 batteries you advised last time. It won't run out of power quickly. Anything else? I think that's all. Nicholas, it's your turn. My friend was already nervously scratching his hands. Before a mission, he always went to see Skull first. He really enjoyed the process of choosing a weapon. Sometimes I think there's still a little child inside him. Although, maybe there is one in all of us? This time I'll go on a sortie with saga. Give me 6 magazines of 8 and load them with shot, please. But one must be with bullets, and sign it somehow so that I can get my bearings in the heat of the moment. I heard you'll be dumped in the Siberian taiga. Are you sure a shotgun is a good choice of weapon? I'm sure. No fire contact is expected against us, said my friend. Although I wasn't so sure. There might be strange creatures outside the lab, but what was waiting for us inside? We didn't know that yet. Accepted. Will a laser target designator be needed? No, but the scope that will be equipped with night vision. Please attach it to me, answered Nicholas and almost jumped for joy on the spot, as if the child inside him was alive. Okay, guys, come in after the briefing just before takeoff. I'll get everything ready for you. Thank you, Skull, my friend and I answered in unison and left the armory. Our next stop was the canteen. Marina Nikolaevna was probably still awake too. I rarely saw her absent from her workplace. This woman was legendary. She always cooked delicious, nutritious food and no one ever got poisoned. For this, Nemesis gets a special thanks from me. It is not for nothing that they say, a well-fed soldier is a combat-ready soldier. That is what I thought. That is why when we entered the dining room, my stomach suddenly began to rumble. It smelled of something delicious, definitely cottage cheese. Oh boys. Marina Nikolaevna shouted across the empty dining room. She always addressed me and my friend like that. Sometimes I think she saw us as her 2 sons who had once died. Come in. I just fried some cheesecakes, Serniki. I remember my mother always fried them for me when I was little, and when I grew up, finished school, entered the university in the military intelligence department, I continued to ask her to fry this tasty delicacy. By God, if I had my way, I would eat Serniki all my life. And if you add some condensed milk to it, twice as beautiful. Serniki are good, I answered Marina Nikolaevna, shouting across the entire dining room. Nicholas poked me in the side. I looked at him and shrugged. His look said better than any words. Don't shout, idiot. You don't live at a cave after all. We sat closer to Marina Nikolaevna. A few minutes later, she placed 2 trays of Serniki in front of us. Nicholas had 11, and I had 12. I winked slyly at my friend, but he didn't rise to the provocation. Marina Nikolaevna, do you have any honey? Honey? Of course there is. Condensed milk too. Condensed milk too. And you don't have to eat bread, I exclaimed joyfully. Nicholas looked at me, rolling his eyes. I laughed, remembering the Soviet Winnie the Pooh. Right now, boys, Marina Nikolaevna also exclaimed joyfully, clearly appreciating my joke. She was always glad to see us. Every time we returned from a mission, she prepared something special for us. Marina Nikolaevna was something like a distant relative to Nicholas and me. At least it felt that way. You could always talk to her, laugh. But we never discussed our forays with her. We remember, after all, that her sons died. And where, under what circumstances, there are different rumors. Some claim that her sons died while on duty in the police. Some say that their helicopter was shot down somewhere in Afghanistan. Still, no one bothered this tired, but in her own way, happy, Soviet woman. In front of us were unopened jars of honey and condensed milk. All this gave us a feeling of safety, home comfort. It is hard to believe that in a few hours we had to return to the hell in whose loop we had found ourselves. Whether this was divine providence or a devilish joke, we did not know. But what we did know was that we would soon find ourselves in mortal danger. After breakfast, we said goodbye to Marina Nikolaevna and returned to our cell. The base, with the exception of some of its inhabitants, was still asleep. Almost all of it, but not us. There were a little less than 3 hours left before departure. Nevertheless, we managed to sleep for 2 of them. True, we slept restlessly. The known unknown inevitably frightened us. Finally, the hour has come. The same briefing, the same Mi-17 helicopter, the same tedious hours of flight. Here we are, in the Siberian taiga. Our mission sounds pretty simple. Find an abandoned laboratory, find the missing outer perimeter guards, retrieve a chemical reagent. So, are you ready? I asked. Like never before, bitch, replied Nicholas, codenamed Dark Knight. Now we addressed each other by call signs. Whatever awaited us, even if they were mutants, the issue of radio silence, and even more so elementary security protocols, was quite acute. We began to move through the forest. This time I no longer paid attention to the singing of the birds or the rustling of the leaves. All this had become boring. There was no novelty here because I was already walking on this land and among these trees for the 3rd time. The feeling of danger was what did not leave me, and the night of darkness either. We moved slowly, carefully. Finally, we reached the place of the first clash, and as if on cue, the 4-legged creatures rushed at us. But we knew what to expect, how many there would be, and where to shoot. I fired single shots, not letting them get close to me, while Nicholas showered the creatures with shot, breaking their tendons and turning their bodies into shreds. Whatever you say, shotgun pellets are a serious thing, whether against people or against these rather rotten mutants. We destroyed the ambush from above too. The creature didn't even have time to jump because we figured it out pretty quickly. We knew when and where it would want to strike, to its misfortune. Then there's the outer security as far as I remember. Right? The Dark Knight asked me. True. And if we're unlucky, we won't meet anyone there again. If so, we need to run to the inner perimeter right away and look for an entrance to the lab. Otherwise, those creatures will corner us again and we'll have to start all over again. That's true. Wait a minute. I'll just restock the stores. While the Dark Knight was refilling his ammo, I also reloaded my RPK's drum. Even though we knew what was ahead, we still didn't know what was inside. How deep do the lab's corridors go? Are the same creatures waiting for us there? Or is there something worse that we are not prepared for, either mentally or physically? Well, that's exactly what we were about to find out. Having finished our preparations, we moved on. In just 15 minutes, we reached the empty camp of the outer perimeter guards. The picture was the same as last time. Several tents were torn to shreds. Here and there lay corpses, gnawed to the bones but still smelling foul. From their appearance, one could tell that a human foot, mostly alive, had set foot in this area a week ago or so. There were no survivors. Not daring to enter the hunting grounds of those creatures we had encountered earlier, we walked around the dead camp. Carefully, without unnecessary movements, we reached the inner perimeter of the laboratory. Last time, we did not have time to examine everything that now appeared before our eyes. An empty, God-forsaken area. Somewhere the doors were open. Somewhere they were torn out by the roots. It was not clear whether this was originally intended or whether there was something worse than four-legged mutants living here. We did not tempt fate either, so we moved towards the main gates rather quickly. "Listen, shouldn't they be closed?" my friend asked me as we got closer. "And how was it last time?" "Damn it, do you think I remember? Last time we were running from the creatures, but in the end, we didn't escape." "Well, that means someone broke off these steel armor plates on purpose. This could have been the cause of the death of the guards. I don't even want to know what must have been inside here, in this God-forsaken place, if this something bent the metal, which a cumulative projectile couldn't break right away. I could just imagine that we were entering the abode of something much more terrible than anything we had seen before. It would be great if we had at least a platoon of soldiers to cover us, and a couple of armor units with automatic guns. Well, just in case we had to retreat back. I didn't say it out loud. Instead of continuing the discussion, I turned on the flashlight and illuminated the space behind the door. It was clean, so I crawled through the torn hole in the armor plates and bent down on one knee. In the room in front of me, a red emergency light was burning. It was even surprising that there was any energy left in the mothballed military scientific facility. Or was everything not as abandoned as they initially wanted to present to us? There was a static noise on my radio. Someone was trying to get in touch. Damn, HQ. We haven't reported anything yet. Knight of Light on the line. Please forgive me. We had a prolonged firefight with the four-legged mutated dogs. We are now inside the lab, preparing to move on. Can you hear me? I can hear you perfectly, Knight of Light. Have you found the guards? No, not at all. The camp was completely destroyed, and only gnawed corpses were found in its place. Received. Next communication session in half an hour. Good luck, soldiers. Over. My partner came up to me. He twirled his finger at his temple, making it clear that the communications officer had no idea what we were up against. Otherwise, he wouldn't have spoken to us so calmly. Everyone does their job as best they can, friend, I replied, checking the fire mode on my light machine gun. Luckily, automatic was selected. That's true. It's just that he didn't even find out how I was feeling. Did they suddenly stop caring whether we came back or not? Let's complete the mission, end this damn Groundhog Day, and then demand answers from the boss, okay? He nodded, and we moved on. There was a lot of water on the concrete floor, whole puddles, but we didn't walk on them. Any splash could give away our position, and we didn't want that at all. We still didn't know what to expect here. The Dark Knight looked into the eyepiece of his night vision scope, and I illuminated the space with my flashlight. We certainly made different choices, but I knew for sure that we were not interfering with each other. It was not the first time we had been in a similar situation. A few minutes later, we reached the security room. It was empty inside. No records, no visitor logs. The monitors were broken, and they looked pretty prehistoric. Having abandoned the idea of a security room, we moved on. The laboratory rooms were empty, literally empty. There was no furniture, no scientific or chemical gadgets. Everything was empty. There's nothing here at all. My comrade, who was walking on my left side covering my rear, took my thought right out of my mouth. This is what scares me. Usually everything is left in a mothballed facility so that later, if necessary, they don't have to spend a lot of time continuing the work. Here, it's as if some looters worked and took everything. They even wiped the floors. Everything looks pretty sterile. Thanks to my partner's words, I finally noticed what my subconscious had not yet managed to tell me. Indeed, in all the laboratory rooms we found, Everything was clean and sterile. Still, I was scared that we didn't meet anyone. No monsters, no mutants. "Do you hear?" Nicholas asked me. "What exactly?" I stopped, puzzled. "The ground is vibrating. Something is approaching us, behind us." I concentrated on the sensations. Indeed, the floor was shaking periodically as if something big was stepping on it. Big and heavy. It was close. In confirmation of this, we heard a roar. "Ah!" We didn't push our luck and ran. I stopped only for a moment to set up the tripwire with the RGN, knowing that the explosion would be instantaneous. Then I followed Nicholas. The corridors were very narrow. I breathed down my friend's neck, trying not to look back. I didn't want to know what exactly was going for our souls and how we could have missed it at all. Or did it miss us? There was no time to think. We needed to find shelter and take a defensive position immediately, preferably behind some kind of blast doors. There was an explosion. My tripwire that I had set up earlier had gone off. The creature was closer than we thought. Soon the room we needed was found. It was a large hall, inside which there was no furniture as we had seen earlier. But this time, at least there were doors, behind which we so wanted to hide. I closed them immediately. Nicholas helped me turn the bolt, shaped like a ship's wheel. As soon as we did this, a dull thud was heard on the other side. A small dent appeared in the doors, then it grew larger. "Damn, we're trapped. Is it all over again?" My partner screamed in despair. I didn't answer. My mind was on something else. Could we win a fight against the unknown? Could we survive where we don't even know what we're up against? The door dented even more. Then a hole appeared in it. We couldn't see anything on the other side, but we both started shooting into the hole. The barrel of my machine gun was red hot. Nicholas was also firing shotgun pellets on full auto. My ears were still ringing as the guns gave a telltale click. Both mine and my partner's. "Reload, quickly!" I exclaimed and pulled the pin from the grenade and threw it into the hole in the door. A few seconds later, there was an explosion, and the creature on the other side roared louder. Although we couldn't see it, we still had hope that some significant damage had been done to it. 10 seconds for the two of us. That's how long it took us to change magazines and prepare for the worst. And then something pinned me to the floor with such force that all the air was knocked out of my lungs. "No!" Nicholas cried. A shot rang out and the pressure eased. I sat up and saw the corpse of something vaguely human lying nearby. "Thanks for covering up. I was almost thinking I was going to kick the bucket," I said, shining the flashlight into the space above us. Fortunately, nothing hidden or sinister was discovered. "You're shining the light in the wrong place. They're coming out of the ventilation," my friend exclaimed, and his saga again responded with fire at the threat approaching us. We were surrounded. Some of the creatures still had scraps of clothing on them. You could see SB, security service, lab technicians, and scientists. But we couldn't see their faces. Only eyes full of hunger and hatred were looking at us. "Well, it seems this is the end," my friend shouted to me. "While we're alive." "Not yet," I exclaimed. "We need to find a way to get out." At that moment, the door through which we had entered this lair flew off its hinges. A 2-meter-tall creature stepped inside. It somehow reminded us of our gunsmith's skull. Just as tall, muscular, and broad-shouldered, only the creature had a cadaverous hue to its skin, and it smelled as foul as it looked. What made me happy about this whole situation was the fact that we had already done some damage to her. Her stomach was ripped open and rotting intestines were hanging out. "We need to break through this creature, friend. It's wounded. Forward." I knew Nicholas would follow me, and so it happened. As soon as I started moving towards the door, I heard the sound of gunshots behind me. It was impossible not to hit this broad-shouldered creature, so every pellet found its target on its body. I didn't stay aside either and tried to shoot while running, although it was very difficult. In a moment, more instinctively, I took out a grenade, pulled the pin, and threw it over my shoulder. 3 seconds later, there was an explosion. The damage done to the creature did not go unnoticed. Its legs buckled and it fell face down on the floor. This gave us a chance to break through and leave the ill-fated room. The adrenaline was pumping through my veins, but I knew there would soon come a time when Nicholas and I would feel exhausted. So before that moment came, we needed to find another place to hide, or we need to get out. To hell with this reagent, we need a lot more people here, and preferably armor for cover, my friend exclaimed. Once again, he took my thought right out of my mouth. We ran along the corridor, along which we had carefully moved some 15 or 20 minutes ago. Fortunately, we did not encounter any creatures on the way. When we got to the exit at first, I was very happy that we got out of this ill-fated laboratory. But then I was disappointed. Outside, the monster dogs were gradually gathering. They were practically everywhere. Well, now it looks like it's definitely the end, huh? I looked at Nicholas. He shrugged and pulled a grenade out of my pouch. It was the last one. Are you ready to experience the final explosion with me and replay this whole situation? He asked me instead of answering. What, we won't even fight? Do you want to check? One of the creatures did not let him finish and ran towards my friend. I reacted instantly and mowed it down with a burst from the machine gun. Fortunately, there was something left. Damn it, pull the pin! I shouted and dropped to one knee. Nicholas followed my order and I heard the ringing. Death was a blessing for both of us now because we were leaving on our own terms. Time stretched out into hours. 3 and 2 more creatures rushed towards us, but they were killed by buckshot. 2, and I started shooting again until my machine gun ran out of ammunition. 1, and one of the creatures grabbed my arm and the other grabbed the Dark Knight's shoulder. There was an explosion. Then darkness fell. For a long time I couldn't understand why there never came a moment when I would fall out of bed. Oh, sorry. I forgot to turn on the light. I heard a familiar male voice. The light turned on. The room I found myself in was lit up with the white hospital glow of the lamps, my most hated light. Well then, so we meet. Night of Light. My name is Sergei Avasovich, and I am your attending physician. Although you don't know me yet, at least not in this role, I finally saw the man in the white coat. He smiled at me and put his hand forward, greeting me from a distance. I wanted to say something, but I discovered that there was a mask on my face. It held my jaw so tightly that I couldn't speak. It's a precaution, just so you don't bite your tongue off when you wake up. I can see from your eyes that you have a lot of questions. But first things first. For now, rest. I remembered whose voice I had heard before. More precisely, whose? Skull. That's right. I would never forget his voice. Then why did this Sergei, what's his name, was? I tried to get up, but my movements felt constrained and completely strange. I told you, lie down. It's too early for you to get up. Rest. Think about everything that happened. Ask yourself questions. Reflect on how you like it. And I'll come to you later. I'll just pour myself some coffee and bring you some Serniki. You like them, right? I loved Serniki, yes. Still. Strange situation. What's going on? My morning started as usual. I got out of bed, got myself ready, and then went to the work canteen. For breakfast, there was rice porridge, freshly squeezed orange juice, bread with butter, and for dessert, a croissant with chocolate. Well, the hospital where I work always cooks very tasty food. I believe that good food in the workplace is in its own way an important guarantee of success in any activity. A well-fed doctor is a good doctor, as I like to say. I see that my letter has found its fame with you, Mr. Strange. I think that this one, already the second one, will not disappoint you and your audience either. After all, this time I want to tell you not just about ordinary people who have limited mental limits, who, sometimes, are unstable even to the most, it would seem, ordinary difficulties of life. Today we will talk about a special patient whom my old friend asked me to cure. At first I doubted whether I, a young specialist, had the right to take on such work at all. Would I be able to cure someone whom the best psychotherapist in the world could not cure? In the end, I decided to try. As they say, you never know. Either all or nothing. It was July 2016. At that time, virtual reality was just beginning to gain popularity. At first, it was computer games, then architecture, philosophy, and even medicine. Little by little, I saw this as a chance to help my future patient. The thing is, he suffered from a very acute form of PTSD. He himself was a military man and served in private military companies all over the world. He broke down on one of his missions when in a battle he lost not only the unit entrusted to him, but also his close friend. The battle was protracted in the taiga forest somewhere near Siberia. As my friend told me, the fighter himself is quite capable, smart, quick to react, in good physical shape. But it was the loss of his friend that broke him, turned him inside out. I did not go into details about who fought against whom. The essence is the same. A man lost the work of his life, and in addition, practically lost an adequate perception of the reality around him. That's when the idea of using virtual reality came to me. I simply asked myself, what if you immerse a person in a familiar environment? What if you create a scenario, or even a world in which the patient acts without causing harm to anyone else? I knew that the loss of my friend Nicholas had left a mark on my futur protégé, a mark so deep that he constantly talked to himself, practically never stopped praying, and simply lived a hermit's life somewhere deep in the frozen taiga. An unhappy man. I specifically asked my friend to bring my patient under sedation. I wanted to immediately immerse him in virtual reality. By the way, another friend of mine from the Ministry of Defense helped me with the helmet. They needed a tester with military knowledge. That's when I got busy. I convinced my friend to provide me with all the equipment. It wasn't difficult for me to come to an agreement with the administration of our modest medical institution either. They were only glad that their hospital would be testing a new system for treating patients. This, in turn, promised good quotas from the state. Almost everyone was a winner. Still, for me, the main question remained, will it work? Just be careful with him, Sergey, okay? Don't worry. I'll do everything in my power to help your son. I hope so. Even if Artyom doesn't return to service, I wouldn't want him to live his whole life in the forest and in his traumatic delusions. I don't promise results, but I'll try. I believe you, my friend. I believe you. And I thank you for that, Pyotr Sergeyevich. I will try not to disappoint you. We were always on the same level as each other. It just so happened that when I was finishing my studies in Novosibirsk, and he was my scientific supervisor, at that time, I was just thinking about using virtual reality in psychotherapy. Well, the moment has come. When Artem was brought in, we immediately connected the virtual reality helmet to him, having first laid him on the couch. I told the nurses to secure his arms and legs so that if anything happened, Artem wouldn't break anything. In the room where we were located, there were several tables with computer equipment. There was also a computer specialist from the Ministry of Defense, Mikhail, assigned to me and our patient. His task was to program Artem's scenario, according to which he would move at a pace convenient for him. I immediately asked Mikhail to program the helmet to recreate a fairly fantastic but still close to combat situation. That's how the idea of the PMC Nemesis was born, filled with various characters. We were lucky. Artyom's traumatized brain quickly realized itself in the new reality and accepted it as everything that was happening in reality. It was also better for us. We will quickly guide Artyom through the events that traumatized him personally, and he will be able to highlight areas for me to work with him. The idea of the time loop came to me immediately. It perfectly suited the specifics of working with Artem, and was conducive to long-term development of everything necessary. In particular, the death of his friend Nicholas, because of which he began to lose himself. Whatever happens, Artyom will always return to the starting point. The term from computer games, checkpoint, fits this perfectly. We were watching him with our eyes. Fortunately, The experimental technology of the helmet allowed us to see everything that was happening to Artyom on our screen. Mikhail set all the necessary parameters. Then the AI wrote everything else, and voila, the script is ready. The actors are in place. The performance begins. The first thing that surprised me was how Artyom adapted to everything that was happening. As if all this time there was no other life for him. Outside of battles and missions, there was only war. War that never changes. We, as the command, assigned him a combat mission somewhere in the Siberian wilderness. He is a mercenary. He is a soldier. He is a fighter of the private military company Nemesis, invented by us. The purpose of everything that was happening was not only to return Artyom to his usual conditions, but also to tell him about his personal tragedy. At a convenient moment, I wanted to bring him back to reality and continue working there. Now the main thing is for Artyom to regain clarity of thought. Otherwise everything will be in vain. First foray. He and Nicholas go to a mothballed lab to retrieve a chemical that, if it fell into the wrong hands, could harm not only our homeland, but the rest of the world as well. Mikhail and I decided on the choice of enemies right away. We needed the most non-standard situation, so mutants were the best fit. That's how what Artyom would later call monstro dogs appeared. The initial fight was slow and tense. Artyom and Nicholas entered the fray and nearly died. It is noteworthy that Artyom did not even remember that Nicholas had been dead for a long time. On the one hand, this played into our hands. On the other, when he woke up from this dream, he could have sucked my blood pretty good. The ambush, hastily set up by Mikhail, was absolutely illogical. But it served us well, and Nicholas was wounded. The fictitious virus gradually began to spread throughout his body, and after a while the unthinkable happened for Artyom. A loyal friend and comrade turned his weapon against his partner. I must give credit to my patient. He fought bravely, quickly adapting to the changed conditions around him. At that moment, I understood why it was important for Pyotr Sergeyevich to return Artyom, if not to his former form in real life, then at least to bring him closer to it. So, Artyom died and returned to the checkpoint, to his cell at the base. His analytical abilities amazed me. He immediately began to reflect, asking questions like, "Why am I alive? And what the hell does this all mean?" So Artyom got an advantage. He knew what was waiting for him and his friend. He knew what he would do. First, Artyom changed his weapon despite Nicholas's mistrust. Then he tried to take his time during the mission itself and carefully eliminate all threats that threatened to kill his friend. The ambush that Misha had planned earlier didn't work, but the completely devoured guard post worked like clockwork. As soon as the heroes set foot on its territory, the monster dogs appeared nearby and began to surround the two soldiers. In this attempt, Artyom and Nicholas went further, but not deeper. They never got to the lab, because this time, Artyom became infected when one of the monster dogs bit him on the ankle. Once again, I was struck by how Artyom was ready to die for his friend. In his mind, it seemed noble to die himself, so as not to set up a friend because he had seen the consequences of infection earlier. He did not want being in an unsound mind to hurt a loved one. Here an important door opened for me. Here it is. Artyom's first trauma, not to harm loved ones. Perhaps this detail of his psyche made him become a hermit and live in the wilderness. Then Artyom, after he was shot in the forehead, found himself back at the base. But this time we connected Nicholas to what was happening. Now both began to analyze how and why what happened was remembered by both of them, and not just Artyom. I thought they would immediately set off on a mission, but in our fictional reality, time flowed according to its own laws. So Misha and I watched in amazement as Artyom and his partner explored the base and communicated with its few inhabitants. The technology that was given to me for testing was amazing. It not only allowed me to influence everything that was happening from the outside, but also perfectly adjusted the scenario already inside. So we saw the gunsmith Skull, whom Artyom somehow invented himself, and the AI implemented his idea. It's funny that for some reason Skull spoke with my voice. Then Marina Nikolaevna appeared, who hid an equally tragic story behind her. After a short break, it was time for the third sortie. Here Artem and Nicholas went even further, even deeper. Not only did they overcome all the obstacles, bypass our traps, but they also reached the main goal. True, they didn't find the reagent, but we already gave them survival problems, which they almost successfully solved. Everything went well at first. The two friends successfully fought off an ambush in one of the internal testing rooms, then defeated a large and strong mutant, which Misha also invented himself. Alas, the force was on our side. In the end, the two friends could think of nothing better than to die a heroic death together, blowing themselves up with grenades. It was this moment that I decided to use to pull Artem out of this illusion. My intuition clicked, either now or never. According to Mikhail, Artyom needed 30 minutes to come to his senses. While his brain was sleeping and slowly analyzing what was happening, I asked Misha to leave the office, leaving us for a while. I no longer needed his help. I was expecting to work with the patient one-on-one, alone, just him and me. Believe it or not, I had one of the hardest tasks to date, Mr. Strange. PTSD is hard to treat. It's not like writing a story for the local paper or teaching an English lesson at school. It's even more of a responsibility. I locked the office so that no one would disturb me. I hoped to myself that everything would work out, that Artyom would be ready to hear me and would not hold a grudge that I had to resurrect his friend, comrade, and close person who had once fallen in battle. Time dragged on. I was very thirsty, and I regretted not having brought coffee or milk with honey with me beforehand. A couple of times I wanted to step away for a while, but I was afraid of missing my patient's awakening. While waiting, I decided to turn off the light and take a nap. When Artem's groans and grunts woke me up, the clock was already approaching 8 in the evening. Waking up took a little more than an hour and a half, rather than the half hour Misha had stated. There was some commotion on the couch. Then I realized that Artyom couldn't see anything and started to fuss. "Oh, sorry, I forgot to turn on the light. Is that better?" I asked. The light came on. The room we found ourselves in was illuminated by the white hospital glow of the lamps. Well then, so we meet, Knight of Light. Or should I call you Artyom? My name is Sergei Avasovich, and I am your attending physician. Although you don't know me yet. At least not in this role. I put my hand forward, greeting Artyom from a distance. Artyom himself was about to say something, but he had a helmet and mask on his face. He couldn't speak yet, because the nurses had taken care of it in advance so that Artyom wouldn't bite his tongue after waking up. There was still a possibility. It's a precaution, just so you don't bite your tongue off when you wake up. I can see from your eyes that you have a lot of questions. But first things first. For now, rest. Artem tried to get up, but he couldn't. His muscles had atrophied a bit, gone numb. It was temporary, so I wasn't too worried. I told you, lie down. It's too early for you to get up. Rest. Think about everything that happened. Ask yourself questions, reflect on how you like things. And I'll come to you later. I'll just pour myself some coffee and bring you some Cernicki. You like them, right? I said and unlocked the office door. I finally needed to bring myself something to drink. Besides, there's no better conversation than when both people have breakfast and have a heart-to-heart talk. Besides, I was interested to know what Artem was thinking. I wasn't going to take off his helmet and then record all his thoughts. Yes, it turns out that's possible too. By my calculations, Sergei Avasovich was gone for about 15 minutes. Then he came and brought me the promised plate of Cernicki. He took some for himself too, apparently sharing my tastes. Then he took off some kind of hat, which later turned out to be a helmet, and removed the mask. But for some reason he put the helmet back on. Oh well. Now I could not only eat but also talk. My first question was, what the hell is going on here? Oh, I'm glad that your vocal cords are normal and that you yourself are healthy. In answer to your question, I can say that you are undergoing treatment under an experimental program. Sergei Avasovich immediately answered me. It didn't become any clearer after his words. Why treat me? Where is Nicholas? When can I continue the mission? I decided to ask these questions out loud. The answer surprised and upset me at the same time. Tell me, Artyom, do you remember what happened to you over the last few years? He asked me. Here I began to have bad suspicions. It seems I lived somewhere, but I don't remember being with anyone. Then I was called on a business trip. It was necessary to evacuate some chemical reagent in a godforsaken place. Wait a minute. Are you trying to tell me that? Yes, Artyom. I'm sorry, but it was the only way to bring your mind back. You see, for a long time now you've been, how can I put it tactfully, out of your mind. You've almost completely lost your mind. So that's it. The answer surprised me. So it turns out that everything I experienced before was a fabrication? Sort of yes and sort of no, they answered me. All in all, it explained a lot. All these monster dogs, the mission itself, the time loop. Everything was somehow too straightforward. As if made up. Now I knew the truth about it for sure. But did this truth make me happy? No. Absolutely not. It turns out Nicholas, I'm sorry, but Nicholas has been dead for over 3 years. This was one of the reasons for your deep trauma. Died. I seem to remember something like that. Yes, that's right. 3 years ago, we were on a mission in Siberia, and my unit was ambushed in the taiga forest. Nicholas sacrificed himself to save me. Unfortunately, I was the only one who survived that battle. So the Nicholas I saw recently was not real? I'm sorry, but that's true. He was recreated from your memories. Why was this necessary? To help you get used to his death. You see, you lived as a hermit for 3 years. You severed all ties with the outside world and almost completely lost your mind. Your father, Pyotr Sergeyevich, asked me to help you. That's it. And it's true. I somehow remember my hut in the forest. I got it from my grandfather. Well, as far as I know, that's where you lived. You caught fish in the local river, scared mushroom pickers with your unconscious state. In short, you lived, locked deep within yourself. So you are the good Dr. Abelit, who is ready to help me. Well, I don't deserve to be compared to Ibelit yet, of course, but I really want to help you. What's your benefit? You probably paid a lot of money. It's not a question of money. I want to help my old friend, as he once helped me. Besides, your case, although not isolated, is still in my line of work. Help? Me? Ha. Naive doctor. On the other hand, maybe I really do need help, since I've closed myself off from everyone, from myself. Everything I had experienced before. It was as real as it was unreal at the same time. On the other hand, I at least got to talk to my best friend again a little bit. We had a mission, a common goal. Like in the good old days, we fought for a just cause, albeit under the flag of a private company. My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of unbuckling belts. Then Sergei Avasovich gave me a plate with a fork and serniki. Only after inhaling their smell did I realize how hungry I was. I spent the entire 10 minutes gobbling up the serniki. They were the only thing on my mind. But when I finished, the joy slowly began to fade into the background. It was time to look the reality around me in the eye again. My attending physician, how quickly I came to terms with his thought, had also finished his breakfast. I held the plastic fork and knife in my hands and wondered what awaited me next. Fortunately, there was someone to think for me. Would you like to go for an evening walk, Artyom? We have a nice little park in the courtyard here. I often read books there during my break. A walk? Well, maybe that was a good idea. It's better than being stuck in this office. I agreed. Sergei Avasovich kindly offered me his shoulder on which I could lean. And the helmet, let it stay for now. It is needed to register your brain impulses. I nodded and we moved towards the door and left the office. The hospital corridors were cozy. You wouldn't immediately know I was in a psychiatric hospital. There were lamps everywhere, but not white, but rather orange. I liked that color better. Doctors walked here and there. Some didn't pay attention to us, while others looked at us in surprise. Why are they looking at us like that? Do I look that bad? I tried to joke. There's nothing surprising about that, Artyom. It's just not every day that people see a doctor helping a patient go somewhere. We have nurses for that job. But I wanted to make an exception for you. During your time in the illusion, I've come to the conclusion that you deeply value camaraderie. Ha, you are observant. Yes, I appreciate it, because camaraderie can be the best shield against absolutely all adversities. That's true, you're right. That's why I value him too. Perhaps we have much more in common than it might seem to you at first glance. I didn't respond to his last remark. I wanted to enjoy this cozy hospital smell, the bustle in the corridors. Later, when we went outside, I was delighted. Rustling leaves, pines and birches, incredible natural beauty. You know, Sergei Avasovich, I have long dreamed of understanding nature and animals. Yes, this thought flashed through your memories. Is there some history to this desire? Ha, I chuckled. No story. It's just much better than killing. I'm tired, you know, of being a reaper with a scythe. I want to be a creator and a builder. Who knows? Maybe I would have made a good artist. If you want, I can bring you an album and paints. Or pencils. You have enough time to discover other talented sides in yourself, I thought. Is it possible to live far from the battle? And if it is possible, how can I achieve this harmony? I must try to achieve it. With all these thoughts, I didn't notice how we got to the little park. Everything was as Sergei Avasovich described. Quiet. No one there. An ideal place for both reading and talking. The lampposts also added to the coziness. The doctor helped me sit down on a bench. Then he sat down on another one, opposite me. Although our view was blocked by a recently planted tree in the center, I still felt that the upcoming conversation could be more difficult than any of the shooting battles I had managed to experience in my life as a mercenary. Sergei Avasovich picked up a notebook and a pen and looked at me carefully. Then he said, "Well, Artyom, I'll ask questions, and you try to answer them, okay? Preferably honestly. It's just you and me here. No one else. Lying, evading answers, dodging. It won't work. You just shouldn't. It will be worse for you. The treatment will drag on. You will burn out internally. I will be upset too. Do we need it? No, you're right. I'll try to be brutally honest. Excellent. Then here is my first question. Why battles? Why war and shooting? You know, Doctor, it's complicated. At first, it all started as a simple service in the army. Then Nicholas and I thought that since we were good at serving, why not take a risk and try to go deeper into this direction? So we became mercenaries in the service of Russian PMCs. They told us, we shot. Have you discussed with Nicholas what would happen if one of you died? Sergei Avasovich continued asking, taking notes in his notebook. No, almost never. It was a difficult topic for us. For some reason, we naively believed that such a fate would pass us by, that we would always have each other's backs. Unfortunately, 3 years ago, life showed me that you can really hope for a lot, but the outcome may be completely different. There was silence, broken by the singing of birds. The fresh evening air made me sleepy a little, so I lay down on a bench and began to watch the insects that were sticking to the lamppost above me. Still, I'm glad you plunged me into the illusory world, Doctor. Even if it was for a short time, I was with Nicholas, even though I didn't realize that he'd been dead for a long time. Honestly, even now I feel as if he is somewhere nearby, quietly watching over me. I'm glad I could help you with this, Artyom. You can't imagine how afraid I was that you would feel anger towards me. Oh, I did. At first. Now I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for your resourcefulness. My mind, it's still not quite right now. But I periodically recall fragments of other psychotherapists who tried to work with me. They hardly succeeded. Everyone has different treatment methods, Sergei Avasovich noted carefully. He doesn't want to denigrate the attempts of his foreign colleagues because it's true that everyone has their own approaches. I thought and smiled. Tell me, Artyom, what would you like now? To see Nicholas again? To see him and say goodbye to him? Like a human being. 3 years ago I didn't manage to do that. Well, I think I can arrange that for you. We returned to the hospital, to the office. There was a stranger there who didn't even pay attention to me. Lie down, Artyom. Now I will give you a sleeping pill and you will fall asleep. After some time you will find yourself in the illusion again. Okay, Sergei Avasovich. I will trust you, even though I feel fear and doubt. Everything will be fine, I promise. So, as the syringe began to inject its contents into my arm, I felt my head spinning. Gradually, I finally fell asleep. Although I don't know how much time passed, I know exactly who the person standing in front of me was. Nicholas! Artyom! We squeezed each other's hands tightly. It was our little tradition. Forgive me, friend. Forgive me for not protecting you then. It's all right. It's not your fault. Something like this could have happened sooner or later. Who else but you would know about it, huh? You're right, yes. But the feeling of guilt still remains. You can't imagine how hard it is for me to live with him. I can imagine, Artyom. The main thing is that you live your life. Don't blame yourself, okay? I am where I am. You are also where you should be. At the end of your life, we will definitely meet. My friend always knew how to instruct and inspire. After his words, it was as if a whole stone disappeared from my shoulders, which had been pressing on me all this time and not allowing me to move forward. The door opened behind me. I knew it was time to go. Time to wake up and live a full life. Just take care of yourself, okay? I asked Nicholas. Definitely. You too, please. Take care of yourself. I walked out the door and was swallowed up by darkness. I don't know how much time passed, but when I opened my eyes, I was greeted by the light of a yellow table lamp. Well, at least it was better than the white ones that irritated me. Wake up, Artyom. I heard Sergei Avasovich's voice, which was already familiar to me. This time it took you no more than 20 minutes to wake up. I didn't answer. Some kind of melancholy settled in my soul. I wanted to close my eyes and just fall asleep without thinking about anything. Hey, Comrade Artyom. Please hold on. I'm sure your friend and partner is in a better world now. You should continue living. If not for yourself, then for him. While you are solving this new dilemma, let me take you to your room. Tomorrow we will continue our work together. Do you agree? The doctor answered and helped me up. 10 minutes later, I was already lying in my private room. The bed was soft and comfortable. The walls were white but not irritating. There was also a TV in the room, but it looked so old that I didn't even try to turn it on. The day and the evening turned out to be eventful. My lost and shattered memories were still returning to me, but they were enough to gradually restore in my head what was a part of me. With all these thoughts, I gradually began to fall asleep. Tomorrow really was a new day. If I wanted to live for myself and my friend, then I had to make every possible effort for this. Let everything go as it should. I will trust this world. Let the world trust me.